Another local restaurant boarded up and run down. Tonight, we're working for you to find out what's going on with the old islands on Balboa.
We'll step into the shoes of the late Senator Diane Feinstein. A delicate and complicated question to be addressed.
Final touches are coming up for this year's La Mesa Oktoberfest.
So you say you're a native Californian, but does your family date back to 1884? Step back in time in a Liebenheim.
CBS 8 News live at 6 starts now.
This week, CBS 8 has been looking at once popular restaurants shuttered and left to decay since the pandemic. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Carlo Cichetta.
I'm Marcella Lee. We've shown you a McDonald's in Ramona and a Jack in the Box in La Jolla, but we didn't have to go far from our studios to find the biggest eyesore yet. CBS 8's Jenny Day is working for you and has found out what's going to happen to the Old Islands restaurant in Kearny Mesa. Jenny?
Yes, so this Islands location here in Kearny Mesa closed during COVID and has not reopened since. So we can be the first to share with you tonight that permits are in the works and this location will soon be transforming into a car wash. Even with the signage gone, the building is distinct. For decades, the Islands restaurant on Balboa Avenue in Kearny Mesa was a popular spot.
Fantastic food, fantastic burgers, everything was so good. For the most part, you walk in, it's a jam-packed house.
It's now listed as permanently closed.
When I drive by, I feel sadness because it has been just, let go.
Yeah, I understand that there has been squatting going on.
Dating back to the early 90s, it was 3 families who owned the property, the Fredmans, Goldens, and Silverbergs. They entered into a 35-year lease with Islands Fine Burgers and Drinks. According to my conversation with the county's chief deputy assessor, that lease is still good through June of 2028.
We're continuing to send the annual tax bills to Big Wave Incorporated, aka the Islands. All the taxes are current.
Islands corporate headquarters is in Carlsbad, so I went to ask why the property isn't being taken care of. No one answered, but their real estate broker called me and says the agreement with the former owner ended in 2020 and that Islands has no ownership interest. There are still 6 Islands locations open in San Diego County.
When the property sold for $5.1 million, we assessed it as such, and we're basically giving no value to the structure. We're saying that this is the value of the land.
In December 2021, the property was then sold for $5.1 million. The current owner is SSCW Balboa LLC. We've since learned SSCW stands for Superstar Car Wash, a company based out of Phoenix. After contacting the city of San Diego and council member Kent Lee, who represents this area, I was told they have plans to use the 55,000 square feet for a self-service drive-through car wash. The old building and outer areas will be demolished.
I hope it does get fixed up. It's not only an eyesore, but more revenue.
Hopefully you turn a negative into a positive, and that's all you can really do.
Since it's been almost 2 years since the car wash bought it, I called to see when the property will be cleaned up. They didn't answer, but their website says the Balboa Avenue location is coming soon. Yeah, and the city tells me that, of course, they can look into properties that are vacant and are not being well maintained, but just being an eyesore is not enough to do that. And they also do not have any formal complaints on file for this property, so they are not yet in violation of the abandoned properties ordinance. So, and before we know it, it will soon be a car wash. Reporting live tonight in Kearny Mesa, Jenny Day, CBS 8.
Thanks, Jenny. And here at CBS 8, we want to help solve problems affecting you. If there's something you'd like us to look into, email us at workingforyou@cbs8.com.
Gosh, we're just in the last couple days of September, October 1st on Sunday.
We're in fall. We're really in fall.
Get ready for a cooler weekend with a chance for light rain.
Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis is here now with a first look at your microclimate forecast as things get a little bit fall-like this weekend.
It's October 1st is this weekend.
That whole thing, every year it gets faster.
It really does.
Too much.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Well, October right around the corner, and also right around the corner, chance for rain in the forecast. So by this weekend, we are looking at a chance for some light rain. We're not talking about a total washout. We're talking about enough to, well, need a car wash. And that's because we are going to have some light showers that will be out there and some slick roads. More favorable for Saturday and then lingering with those chances all the way through Sunday morning before everything dries out by next week. And we'll forget that we're even in fall by next week with those warmer temperatures. So the chances start to increase as we hit tomorrow morning around 6:25. Yeah, that's what you're going to be looking at. Some shower activity for downtown Escondido, the same as well as for Chula Vista. And then seeing more of an influx as we hit the afternoon hours. Around 12:25 tomorrow afternoon, if you're thinking about brunch, make sure it's indoors. We are looking at a chance for some light shower around that time. Everything starts to dry out a little bit more by about 4:10 tomorrow. And then we have yet another influx, but it's just some isolated showers, seeing that for the South Bay around 9:40, and then just seeing the shower activity on again, off again. Really light stuff all the way through Sunday morning. We'll go ahead and take a look at your complete forecast coming up. Marcella Carter.
Her constituents here in California are among those nationwide remembering Senator Diane Feinstein.
Feinstein died last night at the age of 90. She was the longest serving woman in the U.S. Senate, and she was the first woman in California to be elected U.S. Senator. Skylar Henry gives us a look back at her legacy as a trailblazer.
Diane Feinstein served in the U.S. Senate longer than any woman in American history. Along the way, the California Democrat took up wide-ranging causes, including LGBTQ rights, the environment, and gun laws.
We have to come to grips in America with our love affair with weapons.
Joe Biden, who was Senate Judiciary Chairman at the time, credited Feinstein's leadership in sponsoring the 1994 federal assault weapons ban.
She went out and did something that was a product of an incredible amount of work.
In the aftermath of the September 11th attacks, Feinstein spearheaded a 6-year review of the CIA's controversial detention and interrogation program.
If you were ordered by the president to restart the CIA's use of enhanced interrogation techniques that fall outside of the Army Field Manual, would you comply?
The San Francisco native was first elected to the city's Board of Supervisors in 1969 and ran unsuccessfully for mayor twice. Feinstein became the city's acting mayor under tragic circumstances after the 1978 assassination of Mayor George Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk. Following a failed run for California governor, she won a special election for a Senate seat in 1992. 5 additional terms followed. In 2018, Feinstein came under criticism during hearings on the Supreme Court nomination of Brett Kavanaugh. It was revealed the senator initially had not disclosed a letter she received detailing sexual allegations against Kavanaugh.
I did what I believe was right.
Feinstein later embraced President Biden's nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson, who became the first African-American female Supreme Court justice.
I am very proud to support her nomination.
At age 89, Feinstein announced she would retire at the end of her term in 2024.
She's a legend. She was able to convince people on both sides of the aisle to go along with her on issue after issue after issue.
As she announced her plans, Feinstein tweeted, quote, "Even with a divided Congress, we can still pass bills that will improve lives." Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Governor Gavin Newsom will be appointing someone to serve out the remainder of Feinstein's term. We will have more on what's next for her Senate seat coming up in our second half hour.
News about Feinstein's death comes as we inch closer to a government shutdown. Today, the House rejected a plan that would have temporarily kept spending at current levels.
CBS 8's Shannon Handy reached out to our local representatives to find out where they stand.
I reached out to all 5 of our local House representatives. So far, I've spoken with 2 of them, including Democratic Congressman Mike Levin, who says he does not foresee a deal coming together by the Saturday night deadline.
Well, this is a mess.
Congressman Mike Levin, who represents California's 49th district, says he's frustrated by Congress's inability to pass a budget for the new fiscal year. If they don't do so by midnight Saturday Eastern time, the government will shut down, putting millions of federal workers and programs at risk.
Is this shutdown inevitable at this point?
Yes, it's inevitable at this point because Kevin McCarthy has decided to embolden the most extreme members of his own party at the expense of the American people.
Earlier today, House Speaker McCarthy proposed a spending bill known as a continuing resolution that would have kept the government afloat for the next 30 days, but 21 far-right Republicans, none of whom represent San Diego, blocked it from passing. Following the failed vote, McCarthy was flanked by reporters asking what his plan is moving forward.
Keep working and make sure we solve this problem.
McCarthy has been widely criticized for failing to unite his own party. I spoke with Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs yesterday, who fears what the impact will be if the government shuts down.
This will have devastating consequences, particularly for those in our community that are already struggling to get by.
Hundreds of thousands of federal workers will be furloughed during a shutdown, and millions more, like military personnel and TSA screeners, will have to work without pay. Not only that, but food assistance programs such as WIC and SNAP won't be funded, and child care grants, which pay for programs such as Head Start, will come to a halt. The last government shutdown started in December of 2018. It lasted 35 days and was the longest shutdown in 4 decades.
The mood is frustration because Kevin McCarthy could solve this today if he were willing to work across the aisle, and frankly, if he were willing to work with the vast majority of members of his own party. But he won't do it because he wants to hold on to his gavel for just a little bit longer while the American people suffer the consequences. It's reprehensible.
Of the local representatives I reached out to, I did not hear back from Republican Darrell Issa and Democrats Juan Vargas and Scott Peters. We, of course, will keep you updated through tonight and the weekend. For CBS 8, I'm Shanna Handy.
Thanks, Shannon. Still ahead tonight, 2 former NFL players face off on a high school football field.
Plus, an anniversary and a celebration for the Chicano Federation. We're live.
Oh my God.
Confetti's on the ground, the beers are poured. The Mesa Oktoberfest is back.
Everybody loves it.